Hello and welcome to another Bodgit and Leggit video. Now we have a 2011 Peugeot 3008 and we have a serious problem. Only a few weeks ago we did an awful lot of work on this car. I didn't have time to film it. We replaced clutches. Now I kind of filmed how to check to know if you've got a bad dual mass flywheel, but we replaced everything on this. We also replaced the solenoid for the gears and absolutely everything because it was all completely shot. And he had it for a couple of weeks and exactly the same problem again. Now, this is kind of scary because we had to get one part from the main dealer, which was absolutely stupidly expensive, close to £2 grand. And if that part has failed, I know Peugeot are just going to say, well, you fitted it wrong, tough shit. They won't stand by it. They'll just say it was my fault. I fitted it wrong. And it's going to cause a nightmare. Because obviously the customer's not going to be happy, which is completely understandable. If it's failed, it's not my fault. Now, if it's fitted wrong, fair enough. It's my fault, I'll stand over it. But anyway, exactly the same problem. It's an automatic, so the car will not change gear. I'll turn all the ignition on for you in a second. You'll see all the lights start flashing. Everything starts flashing. You can only change gear manually up to third gear. The automatic handbrake has stopped working. Just basically everything has stopped working, and the car essentially won't move. And we've just spent thousands on it. So this is going to be a nightmare. Now, I'm hoping, I really am hoping it's something different. The wheel bearings are gone in this car. Is it the fact that the air gap in the ABS sensor? I've done video on an ABS sensor. I'll link that down below, or I'll put a card up here just to show you how an ABS sensor actually works. So I'm hoping maybe the ABS sensor, if the wheels are wobbling and the air gap's getting too big and coarse, the car can't recognize it, because it needs the ABS sensors to figure out how fast it's going to when to change gear, because it's a fully automatic. So that's, it could just be that, and let's hope it is. So let's turn the ignition on and you'll see exactly what's happening. Hopefully you can see, because of the sun, all the lights on are down here, but as you can see, we get parking brake fault. Hopefully it's going to go through them all like it did before. Nope. So let me just start this. Is it going to go through them all? What's that say? Oh, the sun. Parking brake fault. No, it's not going to do it. Anyway, it used to go through them all saying parking brake fault. Oh, here we go. EPS fault. You see that? Friggin' sun. Gearbox repair needed. Yeah, just kind of going through everything. All the so there you can see all the lights are on. Automatic parking brakes on. ABS lights on. EPS lights on. The warning triangle lights on. There is no engine light, which is a really good thing, because that could cause other issues as well. And like I said, all the lights coming on in the dash, all these warning lights. And basically what it's doing, you put it into A, which is automatic. The automatic light, as you can see, oh, can you see that? The automatic light is flashing. So we have to change gear by the paddle, and it'll only go to third gear and it won't go anymore. So there's no point me driving it anymore, because that's essentially what it's doing. So let's plug the scan tool in. We're going to use the old launch diag gun again, and let's see what codes we get. And fingers crossed it's nothing that we've done. Well, if it's something I've done, I'll stand over it. But if it's a part that's failed, that's when we're in real trouble. Right, we're inside now, so hopefully you can see a little bit better. You can see all them lights on, the warning triangle lights on, the automatic light is flashing. It will when I put it into A and R, it will actually select gear, but it won't change unless I physically change it by this, as you can see, and it will only go up to third gear once you're driving. But it will kick down itself. And then we get all the lights coming up on the dash. I don't know if that's going to show us now, most probably not. And like I said, the automatic handbrake doesn't work anymore, because usually when you turn the ignition off, this used to come on. As soon as you put it in A to take off, it would automatically go off. Now it won't do that. I have to switch the ignition on, press the button down, and then turn the car on, then put it into gear, because it won't do it any other way. I'm just going to let it do a full health report. Once it's done that, we will turn it back on and we'll see what's going on. Right, okay, you can see all them faults we've got. I don't know which one to go in first, because I'm really afraid. Let's let's go for the best case scenario. Let's go into our ABS system, because the thing is, like I said, the ABS sensor controls everything essentially on this particular car. But also, when you have problems with the gearbox, it can also come and show in your ABS system and your engine and all sorts. So we're not out the woods, but hopefully, oh, I don't like this. Please, please be. Oh, oh yes, that is a really nice thing to see. But we're still not out the woods. I need to go into the other modules and see, and go into the gearbox module next, because we don't want to be seeing any gear problems in that sense. Oh, this is not good. Ha ha! Boom! There we go. Look at that. Caused by APS or EPS. Perfect. That is really, really good. Yeah, absolutely brilliant that is. I'm not worried about the top one. That's nothing. That's just because it can't go through its full procedure. Right. We're still kind of not out of the woods yet. This is not going to be anything. This is just going to be maybe bulbs or something. We'll just quickly go into it though, but this shouldn't have anything to do with our problem. Maybe with the engine on and it doesn't like it. Oh yeah, not worried about that. Now engine, we need to see an ABS fault in the engine as well. Then we are kind of exonerated. Boom! There we go. Again, not worried about the CAN bus problem, because that's going to all be related to the ABS, because it basically, it's not saying we got a CAN bus issue, it's just saying it can't see, it can't communicate. So yeah, I'm not worried about the CAN bus issues in this particular case. So what I want to do is go back into the anti-lock brakes. Let me pull up some live data and I'll turn the camera back on once I got that. Now these are things you need to be aware of. As you can see, it says it'll only detect under like 10 kilometers, otherwise you have to go into different settings. So just be aware of that when you're doing things like that. Make sure you know what it can and can't do. So it's going to be gearbox, it's going to be the, yeah, here we go, 1, 2, boom, and boom. Now, right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go forward, and what I want to see is that front left wheel not working. So, see if I can do this, catch it on camera at the same time. Ha ha! Oh yes! Oh, you don't realise how happy that makes me, because I was really worried, I must admit, thinking there was a problem with some of these parts, which is a possibility, and it just makes life so much harder. I can't go too fast because we'll lose communication. Look at that, completely and utterly dead. Now, have we got an ABS problem? Have we got a wheel bearing problem? Have we got a broken wire? You know, it might not be an ABS sensor, but there's definitely no communication coming from that wheel, which is really, really good for us, because it means it's not going to be anything we've done before. But we now need to figure out exactly what's going on, in the sense of, is it ABS sensor? Is it wheel bearing? Now, we are replacing the wheel bearings on this regardless, because they are really bad. So that's going to be done, but we're going to check to see, you know, is it ABS fault? That's kind of the best case scenario, because it's the easiest one to fix. If it's broken wires, that can be a nightmare, because it could be broken wires anywhere. So we need to figure that out first. Let me get this on the lift and we'll see where we're going. But that is great news. Right, I've just taken off the wheel. I've just kind of exposed the wire here. It's still all plugged in, but it's just kind of unclipped, so I can just get to it a lot easier. Because what I'm going to do now is it's a 2-wire sensor, so it's a Hall effect sensor, which gives us a square wave. and the signal wire is transposed onto the other wire. That's how the computer actually reads it, but because there isn't a separate signal wire in this case. But what I want to do is I just want to back probe this now with the with it connected and disconnected, and see if we get voltage. We should be getting, you know, 12 odd volts coming to this when the ignition is on. This will then tell us if our wiring is okay, and then if we've got an issue with our sensor. If we don't, we could have a wiring issue and our sensor could be fine. So let me just get all that set up and we will see. Right, our ignition is on, we are back probed, and we are getting nothing. Absolutely nothing. Right, we could have an issue here with our wiring. Let me just disconnect the sensor to make sure the sensor isn't pulling the voltage down, and then we'll see again. And right, with the wire or with the sensor disconnected, we have the same issue. Right, so I'm just going to do it on the other side, the side we know is working. It's always good to get a reading off the side, off a known good. We happen to have the other side that we know is good because we know it's working. So let me test the voltages on that and then we'll see what happens. Okay, we're back probing the known good side, and we're only getting 5 millivolts. It's kind of dropping. That should be nearly 12 volts. So what I'm wondering is, now that's with the sensor connected. What I'm wondering is the computer shutting it down because it realizes there's an issue. So I've got a couple of ideas here. Let's go back to the sensor. I have a feeling that this sensor here is dragging the voltage down, and as soon as the car realizes that fact, it will shut everything down. So in other words, when I'm trying to get a voltage, the car knows, it senses a problem, and it automatically shuts the system down to protect itself, which is really good. So what I've done is I've disconnected, as you can see, disconnected this completely out of the car. And what we're going to do next is, right, the only reason I say experience is because I know this sensor is working because the car actually registered. It's not registering a fault on this side of the car. And also, it's more than one module that uses this sensor. So the engine module, the ECU, the EPS module, the gearbox module, they all use these sensors. Even the traction control and the cruise control need all these sensors to be working, so it knows how fast the car is going, so when it needs to change gears or if the wheels are spinning, when to stop them and all that sort of stuff. So we're reading it on one module, but doesn't mean all the modules are reading it, if that makes sense. And also, when I back probed this before with the other sensor connected, we still had absolutely no voltage, which doesn't make sense because we know this sensor is working. So what I've done is, again, I'm just trying to show you how to do things common sense and with no scope. But to be honest, in this case, a scope wouldn't help you because we've got no voltage at the minute. So the scope is still going to show no voltage. But the far sensor is now disconnected. I'm back probed into this sensor. So if my theory is correct that the sensor is pulling the signal or pulling the voltage completely out, this should give me voltage as I turn the car on. So let's turn the car on and see. Boom! Look at that. 10 volts. Awesome, people. So if I go here and I connect this sensor back, oh, how many people are going to be screaming, you shouldn't be connecting sensors with the ignition on. I'd be pretty much certain now our voltage is going to go. No, it hasn't. But if I cycle the key, will it come back on? I don't think it will. And there we go. It hasn't. Right, that's good. It's good news. And before people are telling me I need to use a load, well, I'm actually using the ABS sensor as a load. So in this particular case, no, I don't need to use a load because the ABS sensor is my load. So what we're going to do is we're going to disconnect this. I'm going to get my wiring box and I'm going to put some probes on that so we can test it easier. Right, this is my back probe kit. It's absolutely awesome. I got this from Hubitools, and as you can see, I have done a full video on it, but there's just everything. And what this allows me to do is put the two probes on the pin and just back probe it a lot easier, especially when I'm using the camera. It's just a lot easier and you get better results. Right, so as you can see, I'm just probing the sensor. I'm just going to do a resistance check. This should essentially be open circuit. Boom, look at that. That sensor is just sucking all our voltage away basically. Now, just turn the wheel just to see if it changes, because maybe the wheel bearing has done damage to it. And I mean, it should be open, it should be basically open anyway, so even if it goes to open now, it still doesn't mean it's good. It just means there is a part of the wheel that's catching the sensor possibility, because I know the wheel bearings are gone. No, it hasn't really. Boom, that's our problem. Our sensor is just sucking our power away, and the computer recognizes the fault, switches the system off, which is good because it means it's protecting itself. So that's why the car can't change gear, because it needs the sensors. So if I did that to the other side, I guarantee you we're going to get an open circuit. I know I'm going to have to do it just to show people. So let me get it set up on the other side and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so we've got it back probed this side and we come to the meter and boom, open circuit. Infinity basically. So there we go. Some circuits say OL, this doesn't, but it is open circuit, because if I put these two together, you will see it will then change and beep. See? And when they're apart, like that, just completely open circuit. So that is our issue. We need an ABS sensor, and we did that with no scope, bit of common sense. You have to be very careful because, like I said, when we was originally doing this, if you're unsure, you'll be chasing a broken wire somewhere. And as you can see, there isn't any broken wire. It was our sensor pulling down the system. And the way we knew that was disconnect our sensor, cycle the key, come back to our good sensor and see if we got voltage here. And we did, like I showed you. So that there automatically says that we have an issue with the sensor. We then do an ohms check. If you're not sure of the ohms, especially with an ABS sensor, you have 3 other good ABS sensors. Just check one of them. As you can see, it should be open circuit. We're getting 237 ohms or something along them lines. So boom, there we go. That is our problem. We did that with no scope, just a multimeter, and then our leads from Hubitools. And there we go, no scopes, no nothing. I see a lot of people just pulling out scopes, you know, it looks impressive on the videos, but not everyone has them, and a lot of the stuff you can do without with just common sense. And yeah, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to order up a new sensor, a genuine sensor, and I guarantee you when I put it on, we're going to have voltage on the other side and our system's going to work. Lovely, sorted. Right, there we go, brand spanking new genuine ABS sensor. There's the part number for everyone playing along at home. And what I've done is I've taken out the old one. Now, I was seeing if maybe the wheel bearing had touched it, because like I said, I know the wheel bearings are bad in this, and to be fair, no, nothing has really touched it. It's just essentially broken. But unfortunately with this breaking, it's done exactly the same fault to the customer's car, and you know, it can be very difficult to try and explain, well, no, it's a separate issue, but then, well, hold on, it's doing the same thing. But yeah, it is a separate issue. Because the parts we actually replaced, pile of parts here, that's the clutch, and you'll see a video on how to test the dual mass flywheel, just see how bad that is. But we also replaced this unit because that was completely shot as well, and that is the expensive thing. I mean, ridiculously expensive, and I know Peugeot won't take that back. So it's good that it was something different. So this is where it is good to actually save your error codes and try and explain to the customer, but some don't understand, and there's just nothing you can do, and they just think it's something you've done. What I will do though is I will quickly plug it in and just kind of wipe the fault codes. Well, no, the wheels are up, it might not let me do it. Right, what I'm going to do is I'm not going to do anything yet. I'm going to change the wheel bearing. I will quickly plug it in just to make sure we got voltage to kind of prove my point. And I had to change the wheel bearing, which I'm going to do in a separate video. Now, I'm not going to so much show you how to change the wheel bearing, but I am going to show you some really cool tools on the press of the wheel bearing. Right, the new sensor is plugged in, and instantly I know it's better, because as soon as I put the key in, the car doesn't start beeping and doing all the weird stuff it did before. The ABS sensor is only hanging in the ground, but it's plugged in and the circuit is proper. And when I go to the multimeter, boom, we have our voltage. So there we go. And like I said, I don't need to use a test light because that is my load. So it will light up a test light bulb, no problem at all. So let's see if we can get you inside just to start this bad boy up and see what happens. Right, I haven't done anything. I haven't reset the codes or anything. All I've done is, because the thing was beeping like crazy, I've just put my foot on the brake and I've just activated the automatic handbrake. It just stops it from beeping. That's all I've done. So, and like I said, the ABS sensor isn't plugged in properly. Just turn on the ignition and boom. Them lights go out. The automatic light isn't flashing. I can't start it. Well, I can start it, but I can't drive it. Keep my foot on the throttle because if the wheel starts spinning, it's gonna show a fault. So I've just started it. My foot's still on the brake, and boom, there we go. Look at that. Goes into gear. It's not flashing. That's it. Boom, fixed. I will, once I've done the wheel bearing on that side, I will finish out this video and take it for a drive just so you can actually see. There we go. So you know, was that luck? Was that experience? No, it was common sense. Think about it. From the live data, we knew there was only one wheel not working. When I back probed the good wheel, there was no voltage there, which doesn't make sense. So we then go back to the one that's broken, disconnect the sensor, cycle the ignition, and boom, the voltage comes back. What does that tell you? It tells you that that sensor is bringing down the power. Now, if that didn't work, then we might have an issue further up the line, you know, on the harness side, not the actual ABS side. But then once we do an ohms check on the ABS sensor, we can clearly see that it's destroyed inside. So if you do an ohms check on that and it's okay, well then you know you need to look further up. But in this particular case, a scope or anything like that wouldn't have been any good, because again, it just would have shown a flat line. I'm not saying scopes aren't good. I'm not saying that whatsoever. I'm just saying, when you see a lot of people just bringing out a scope all the time for the little things, yes, it looks impressive, and yes, it can look good for a video, but you don't need it. Not all the time. And you know, you can do these things at home. I just use a multimeter. Yes, I had the connections from Hubitools and stuff like that, which is a must if you're doing anything with electrics or anything like that anyway. But you know, so I wouldn't really class that as a specialist tool as such, because you know, if you're doing anything like that, you kind of need that. And very, very simple, common sense. Go to a known good and take your readings from there, and then boom, there we go. So all that problem was caused for an ABS sensor, and the bits I showed you before, it gives you exactly the same problems, but it gives you different error codes. That's the key. The problems are the same, but the error codes are different. So don't just, if you get gearbox problems and clutch problems, don't go for an ABS sensor, because it's not going to work. We had an ABS fault this time, we had clutch and thingies this time. So it's completely different. And so that's it. So what I'm going to do is get this wheel bearing done, and then we'll take it for a drive and we'll see how it is. Sort. Right, wheel bearing is done. Handbrake is on. It's in N. Normally the warning light straight away would come up, even with the no key in the ignition, and like there is now. Normally it'd be up straight away. So I haven't wiped any faults. I haven't done anything. Just put my key in the ignition, start it. So can't really see, but foot's on the brake. It's not flashing. As soon as I put it into A and take off, the handbrake should automatically release. Ah, and it does. And it does. And it goes forward. So let me take this off the lift properly and we'll take it for a spin. But that's a really good sign. And if I turn it off, yep, automatic handbrake comes on. And no more warning lights up there. Lovely. Right, let's actually see. So the handbrake's on again. Put my foot on the throttle. Handbrake goes off. Which is good. Let's just see if it changes gear itself, which I think it will do. Hey, there we go. It's done. It's sorted. I'm obviously going to take this for a bit of a test drive now, just up and down the road quickly, and Let's see how it performs. Okay, we're back after the drive. Absolutely perfect. And like I said, is it me being absolutely brilliant, clever, good looking, obviously, that I fixed it? No. Was it luck? No. It was just common sense. You know, once you take, especially a sensor like that there's more than one on the car, you can go on the other one you know is working. We know it was working because of the live data. Still didn't have voltage there. Disconnected the one, recycled the ignition. We had voltage. Did an ohms test. You know, it's simple, very simple, like old school mechanics here. It's nothing, you know, spectacular. And getting out all the scopes and stuff like that, yeah, it would have made the video look a lot better, but absolutely unnecessarily. At the end of the day, this is real life, not to try and make me look better than what I am, not to try and make the video look better than what it is. It's just so normal, anybody can do it basically, and most of these stuff they can. It's just some of the tools are quite expensive. So that's it really. And the other problem is, you know, the customer had exactly the same problem before. Now that can cause a big problem, because before he spent an awful lot of money, I'm talking thousands, and then 2 weeks later to the customer the exact same problem again. Even though it's not, it caused the same symptoms. It was a different issue. But you know, when a customer's just spent all that money, it can very easily and very quickly get out of hand. And you know, look enough, this customer is actually understanding, and it wasn't like that, but it can get like that, and it's awkward then, because it's not, there was nothing wrong with the parts, there was nothing wrong with what I did. It was just another part has failed and it's caused the same symptoms. Different error codes, but same symptoms. And of course, the customer's not going to know anything about error codes because he's not going to see it. He just sees all the lights come on the dash and it does exactly the same thing. So yes, can be a nightmare, but you know, it is what it is. The car is now fixed. It's driving absolutely lovely. I got the other wheel bearing and everything to do, which I'm not going to be able to get done today, unfortunately. But we know the car is actually fixed and it's driving and it's all good. So there it is. Look, hope it helps. Please like, share, comment and subscribe. Don't forget, check out my Facebook, Patreon, Instagram and all that. Links up here, links down below. But most importantly, don't forget, get your hands dirty. See you for the next one. Sorted.